We've rented about 700 units in the past 2 years, and I have screened over 4,100 applicants personally myself. So I have a lot of experience with this, and hopefully you guys can take some of that experience and apply it in your own businesses. Okay, so how has the application process changed? I've been around a long time. So, it used to be the paper application people would fill out. That's not the case anymore. Most people use electronic applications through either their property management software like 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝘁 𝗟𝗟𝗖. We use 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁, which is a company that has a complete virtual, online application. There's companies out there like RentButter. Zillow has an application process. My Smart Move. There's a lot of different things that agents and people use to do their applications. There's some really cool technology out there now called Plaid. Plaid allows the applicant to link their bank account. You can't see everything coming in and out, but what you can see is their payroll deposits, because they put that information in, who they're getting paid from, and you can see their rent payments. So Plaid will show you that they report they make $10,000 a month. You're going to see those actual deposits going into their account. And they report that they pay their landlord on time. You will see when they're paying their landlord, so you can verify that that's a true statement. So that's really cool technology. Right now, about 55–60% of our applicants do choose to link. It makes the application process so much quicker and easier. You're always going to have those people that are, worried about giving someone access to their bank account. We can't see anything else. All we can see are the information they allow us to see. It's called Plaid. Yep, it's called Plaid, and some of the other electronic application companies are using it, but yeah, definitely look into that. Identity verification. Ask for other forms of identification. It used to be that you could just collect a government-issued ID like a driver's license. We often ask for Social Security cards if there's something coming up that doesn't make sense, utility bills, anything else you can get to prove they are who they say they are. But we'll get more into that later. That can be tricky. But it's not just driver's license. We receive multiple applications for every property we put on the market, which I'm sure if you guys are in the industry, you all know. You put something on, you got a lot of people calling you. There's a lot of different applications. So we do not approve. It's not a first come, first serve. We collect the applications just like when doing a residential sales transaction, and then we pick the best applicant who's most suited for that property. So that's how we do it. Everybody has a little different way, but the inventory is low and rentals seem to attract a lot of activity. So you should be getting some applications. And there is technology out there to help you identify some fraudulent documentation. Findigs is one of them. So what they do is when the applicant scans in their pay stub, it will literally flag it and say this is an altered PDF, that they changed something after this PDF was created. It's very, very helpful. It's not 100% accurate. You still have to do your due diligence and look into it. We had a situation where somebody uploaded, we asked for bank statements because we needed some more information. And they gave us a Bank of America bank statement. Bank of America is used a lot for fraud. So I don't know why. Those bank statements must be easy to replicate. We could not figure out what on this bank statement was making it flagged. So we sent it over to the engineers. There was literally a little tick mark at the top of the bank statement that they said would never be in a Bank of America bank statement. It was like a little line. And it wasn't from like a scan. It was like an embedded into the bank statement, and they said this is absolutely fraudulent. And a very cool technology. That's through Findigs. Findigs provides that service, and Findigs is an application. They provide online applications. So very, very cool technology. Okay, any new laws? This session is really not about all the different laws related to leasing and property management, but I do want to make you guys aware of a couple of important things. Source of income became a protected class in January of 2023. Does anybody here know what that means?
You can't discriminate. You cannot. For Section 8, I think it pertains mostly to voucher holders.
Yep, that's what it means. So voucher holders, unemployment, Social Security, child support, this is all considered a protected class now. So years ago in DuPage, Kane, somebody called up and said, do you accept Section 8? You could say no. That's not the case anymore. All of Illinois has made source of income a protected class. So just be aware of that, okay? They also made unemployment a protected class, which this one to me, unemployment is not, it ends. It only goes for a certain period of time, but just be aware that they did include unemployment in that source of income definition. And then immigration status. This is a hot topic right now in the country. You cannot require immigration paperwork, but you can ask for another form of identification. So that's really what that law means. We weren't sure how this was all going to play out, but really it's just you can't require them to have legitimate immigration paperwork. As long as they give you any form of ID, that has to be sufficient. So those are the two big ones. Okay. Understanding the Cook County Resident Tenant Landlord Ordinance, the RTLO, and the Chicago had to make it difficult, the Resident Landlord Tenant Ordinance. So understanding those. So I don't know if anybody here would know what's wrong with this statement. I have a property in Berwyn, and I'm requiring a 2-month security deposit.
You can only do 1.5 months in suburban Cook County, I think, starting 2022.
Yep.
I think the Cook County RTLO can.
Yep, bingo. Yep, bingo. So cannot require more than 1.5 months security deposit in Cook County. So I saw a listing with this, and I thought, uh-oh, they don't understand the law. I recently saw a Palatine condo, and it said, we don't accept Section 8 right in the broker remarks. And I was like, oh my goodness, how does this agent not know that this is a thing? This is a protected class.
You can't mention Section 8 anywhere on the list.
You're not supposed to. We have put in some of our marketing when we've gone through the inspection process and we didn't pass and the owner's not going to rebuild the whole staircase or something. We have put that this will not pass a CHA inspection. But we've been through the process. We're not assuming that it's not going to pass. We actually didn't pass. So otherwise, yeah, there's no statement about Section 8 anywhere.
Can you put in the marketing, like let's say you have a property where you want a Section 8 tenant, can you put accepting all houses?
Absolutely. You can put, voucher holders welcome. They're welcome anyway, but you can advertise it that way.
So I'm guessing you recommend not saying you won't pass the inspection until you've actually failed it.
Correct.
Don't lie about it.
Don't lie about it. No, don't lie. But if you fail, the homeowner the landlord, the owner is not required to make the necessary repairs. So unfortunately, with the delays with the subsidies, CHA, they give you published guidelines, and they'll say after you submit the RTA packet, it'll be 5 to 7 days. It's going to be 3 to 4 weeks before you get your inspection. Yes?
What's an example of not passing an inspection?
Oh my goodness, chipped paint. Something as little as like chipped paint on the outside of a building or a porch. Smoke detectors are a big one. Ceramic tile that has cracks in it.
Are they, if it's a small repair, are they assuming that it's reasonable enough for you to make that repair so you're not deterring from having those applicants?
That's a good question. Mark has dealt with so much with CHA. I mean,
Well, I think it comes to the whole back porch that was,
Right.
The porch that got painted and the whole thing's got to be painted. And I think if I'm going to give advice on this, I'd say if it's something that's about a couple $1,000s, that's a reasonable thing you're not going to do. Another thing is, if you have children under 6, chip paint becomes a really big deal. And you can have a 6 flat, and it might be even an HOA situation, or it could be a private owner, but you might have chip paint at the top floor that you actually literally got to get a 3-story ladder. Those are scenarios where you should not, or you have a whole building that's got all windows and all the windows have chip paint. Those are reasonable things you're not going to do. But I guess if you have these small things, I would try not to use that as your way not to do it. So, because you might just be setting yourself up for someone challenging you on that. So.
Yeah, I would be careful with that. So the other thing with CHA is, just so you guys are aware, and I've asked this of a couple different attorneys, if you approve a voucher holder, the property should come off the market. You should not leave it on the market in an attempt to obtain a market tenant while you're in that inspection rent determination process. Now, the law states that the landlord has to wait a reasonable amount of time, but that's up to the court to decide what's reasonable. So 5, 6, 8 weeks might be reasonable for a judge. So just be careful with that. There were some people in a group that I was in, and they said, well, we just leave the property on the market, we get a market tenant, and then we don't have to deal with, you know, the subsidy groups. But the lawyer has advised them against that. I'm not an attorney, check with your attorney, but we do not leave properties on the market once we have an approved subsidy applicant.
How does the CHA inspection compare with the DuPage housing?
The housing authorities in the burbs are a lot easier. So DuPage, Kane, Elgin, they definitely check for the safety issues, the smoke detectors, the broken stairwells, things like that. But CHA, you know, it depends a little bit on the inspector you get, what kind of mood he's in that day. Some of them are very, very, very particular, and others we think, oh, this is not going to pass, and it passes. So CHA is a lot more difficult to deal with, and they're much stricter with their inspections.
They
So.
have high turnover of inspectors, so that's where you get a lot of inconsistency.
One of the issues that we have, we did get a Section 8 person in there. The house passed, flying flowers got it in there. The next year, when they re-inspect,
Yeah.
it didn't pass.
Right.
And
Nothing had changed.
nothing had changed.
Right.
Absolutely nothing had changed.
Yeah, that's pretty common. So that's not, and here's the other thing we're seeing a lot of. If they do pass it on the first inspection, about 30 days later, you're going to get a notice from CHA that they're doing a QC, because it's almost like they didn't trust that the inspector didn't find anything. So they're back to do another inspection and they find something. So
They'll hold rent until you complete it.
yeah, you can go into abatement. That's a whole nother, we should do a whole nother session on that.
Michelle,
Yeah.
can you clarify how we can get in trouble when you have a pre-qualified tenant and you're leaning towards the actual approval? I mean, we don't approve until we sign the contract and we actually have a security deposit in hand. So we go through a pre-approval process to qualify them. Now, how can that still be an issue of blunder legally?
I don't think that's an issue. I mean, we go through a whole pre-approval process too.
But you said to take down the property.
Oh, because when you screen your subsidy applicants the same way you screen your market tenants. So if they meet whatever your criteria is in order to be approved for the property, once you decide that, let's say if this was a market tenant, you would be approving them today. Once you decide you're going to approve them, then the property comes off the market. So you still have to go through the whole screening with CHA.
I don't take off my property off the market until you have a deposit and the first month's rent in hand.
So we do the same. We leave them a lot of times. Sometimes we take them off. It depends on how much activity there is. But yeah, if you are pre-approving someone, technically at that point, CHA considers, if you're saying, yes, I'm going to submit this resident tenant approval package, which is called the RTA, at that point, you've made the decision to move forward with that applicant. So even though you don't have a signed lease, and you're not going to have one for 6 to 8 weeks, and you don't have any security deposit or anything collected, that property technically now is for that approved subsidy applicant. I know.
But Ms. Michelle, what if we go through the whole process with CHA for 6 to 8 weeks? At the end, he says, hey, I don't have money to pay you deposit.
It does.
It happens because especially with Section 8, I usually collect, I say, hey man, I'll go through this process only if you pay me a non-refundable deposit for $500.
You can do that.
And we sign an agreement that, hey, this is, if you back out, you lose your $500.
Sure.
Simple.
You can do that. And we recently started, so a little bit, we have one in Kane County where we did make them pay the whole security deposit up front. It's a little trickier in Chicago because CHA tells them not to give the landlord any money. Don't do it. So they know they understand the program, and so they say, well, I've been advised not to. So we've collected like a $250. Like, it's small enough that it shouldn't present an issue, and it's kind of a holding fee.
I was just
So.
curious where that is written and how does that,
It's not written.
It's an assumption and something that CHA assumes that you've automatically approved this applicant through.
If you submit the RTA in their mind, if you submit the paperwork to move forward, that you've.
My point of view.
Yeah, no, I agree. And what's reasonable? I don't think 8 weeks of vacancy is reasonable. I really don't.
I'm going to recommend that because a lot of stuff she'll start going over later
Yep.
That way,
We can get through
we should
everything.
cover a lot of stuff here.
You're welcome. Okay, so I just want you guys to be aware and bookmark these. Mark, if you could click Cook County RTLO summary. I had it open at the top, but there you go. Okay, so make sure that you have this. This has to be included with your leases. Make sure you read it. Make sure you understand. This is just a summary of Cook County. So the other one I gave you there is the summary of Chicago, sorry, yeah. There's the tenant ordinance summary from Chicago. So make sure you bookmark those and you understand those.
And make sure you have the latest version.
And yes, and the new version just came out for Cook County, so. Okay, let's talk about screening. That's why we're here. Screening lease applicants is such a crucial part of what you guys need to do to be successful. Getting the wrong tenant in the unit can really harm your bottom line. So we're gonna talk about some things to do when you are screening tenants. So first thing is the rental application. Make sure everybody completes an application. You want to get their employment details, their previous housing situation, and any references that they have. Also, we require everybody living in the home over 18 to complete that application. So even if they have a child in college that is only there part-time and they're 19, 20, you would still have them complete that application. Use the same process for every applicant. You want to screen everybody the exact same way. So whatever your process is, follow that. If you start doing things differently for this neighborhood than you're doing in this neighborhood, that could be considered discrimination. So just establish what your process is and use that process each and every time. And then obviously verify the accuracy of the application. What I have learned is if something looks too good to be true, it's probably not true. So we're going to spend some time going over that. But okay, credit history. Check the applicant's credit report to assess their, obviously you're looking at their credit score, but you're looking a little bit deeper than just the credit score. I have seen credit scores of 580, and it is someone who has 10 open accounts and they're all late. They haven't made a payment on time in a very long time. And then I see the same credit score with someone younger who maybe only has 2 or 3 open accounts that has paid everything on time. So don't just rely on the number, but dig deeper into what makes up that number. It's very important. You will establish a payment history pattern, and it'll be very easy to see. Discuss any red flags in the credit history, late payments, bankruptcies. Take a look at their level of debt. If they've got 5 credit cards and they're maxed out on all of them, or they're over their limit, which we see quite a bit, you might see or determine that they have a little bit hard time staying within their budget and paying their bills on time. So take a look at what their available credit is versus what they currently owe. And then again, review each credit report. What makes up that number? I see it every day, and I'm baffled by some of the numbers I see, and I don't understand because it looks great to me and it's a low score. So also review their collection accounts. Are you taking into consideration how old they are, or medical bills, student loan payments? There's a lot of things. We don't look at past due medical debt, but every other collection account we do. Go ahead, Mark.
On here we have, so on the podcast we do the weekly landlord tips. We took all of them and put into one link on YouTube. So I think we have about 175 just awesome, quick hitting, 30 seconds to a minute and a half type tips that just are very valuable for stuff like tenant screening, but everything else property management. So put the QR code up here as well too if you want to take a look at that. I will send this out to everybody too.
Cool. Got it? Okay, income verification. Establish a minimum criteria for approval. So we use 2.5 times net. Some people use 3 times gross. We also don't take into consideration any overtime. So we just look at their straight time. There are circumstances with nurses and things that have that consistent overtime, and they can prove it. They can give you 6 months worth of pay stubs and they say, I worked X amount of overtime. It's just part of what's expected of me as a nurse, right? that's okay. But we really don't, we try to get it 2.5 times net without OT. Whatever your guidelines are, you establish those. Verify their income to obviously ensure they can afford the rent. Take a look at their pay stubs. If they're self-employed, I would ask for 2 years of tax returns. You want their personal tax returns, not their business tax returns. And then any employment verification or offer letters. And then discuss any concerns related to the stability of their income. You know, have they changed jobs 5 times in the last year? So just kind of be aware of what their employment history looks like. We get into rental history. Review the rent receipts, ledgers, canceled checks, and bank statements. There are a lot of fake rent receipts out there. So I would say collect them, but do not rely on them. If they have a ledger from a current property manager, great, best thing you can get because it's going to show that payment history. But if you have these handwritten jobbers that they say, oh, I paid cash and I have a handwritten receipt, we don't even consider those as proof of rent. I want to see a bank statement. I want to see something proving to me that you've paid your rent on time. Contact the previous landlords to inquire about their rental history. You don't just want to know if they're paying rent on time. You want to know how they treated the property. Are there any complaints? Was there any other issues with any other residents in the building?
Okay, so let's say someone contacts me and I'm the prior landlord. Can I actually disclose how they were without getting in trouble? Like, oh, they were terrible. Like, I feel like I have to be careful not to say too much.
Yeah, I think that I would be careful, and again, this is not legal advice. I would talk with your attorney, but as long as you don't say anything that would be a fair housing issue, like their kids ran up and down the hallway all the time, like that would probably be something that they would consider a fair housing issue. If you don't want to go into too much detail, you know, there's usually these verifications will say, did they pay rent on time? Were there any late payments? Would you rent to them again? You can simply answer no. And that speaks volumes if you're not comfortable putting in, you know. But we have people all the time that will say that they.
What if you want to get rid of the tenant?
Well, that's the problem. She's great. Love her. You should sign her tomorrow. Yeah.
I was going to say, on a note with this one, so with my rentals, what I do is when I'm calling a previous landlord, I'll ask them first if they have any vacancies to verify that they are an actual landlord, because sometimes we get a friend that puts another friend's phone number.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. And then obviously, you know, discuss any concerns with them. Now, criminal background check. You guys know in Cook County, you cannot run a criminal background check until after you issue that pre-approval. So they've met all of your other criteria, then you can run the criminal background, okay? When you review the criminal background check, you can only look at convictions from the last 3 years. So if they murdered their landlord 5 years ago, you're not supposed to be considering that. It cannot be taken into consideration. So 3 years, convictions only, and then there's an entire process you have to follow, which I didn't get into. That's a whole different subject, but about giving them notice, seeing if they've done any sort of rehabilitation, and giving them an opportunity to present that they have improved their life for the better.
I have a question. Do you find that the property management software that's out there right now and it helps you with screening issues?
Yeah.
Do they comply with these requirements right now? Are they starting to comply?
They are starting to comply. Our criminal background checks do show the last 3 years. For all of you licensed agents, are any of you familiar or do you use Forewarn?
Yeah.
Love it, right? Forewarn's great. Just be careful because it has their convictions from 1996 on there, and you're not even supposed to be seeing those, so you can never take those into consideration. So just be careful with it. We use it too. But you really can only consider convictions from the past 3 years. But Forewarn is a great tool. It lets you see that the people are who they say they are. It gives you their previous addresses, so you can make sure that those line up with what's on their application. A lot of great information. It even tells you what cars they drive, so you can verify that on their application if it's the same car. So.
Who's around them too, like other phone numbers?
other phone numbers that are associated with them. It's great. It's not always 100% accurate. And sometimes you'll put the phone number in and you'll get 3 or 4 people and they'll say deceased. Like, so you know that person must have had that phone number a long time ago.
We did an episode on forewarn on the podcast, episode 188. It's just like a short 15-minute FYI.
Yeah.
Anyone, realtors get it for free, but anyone can go on and buy, sign up for a forewarn.
It's great.
$10 a month.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a fun party trick too. Putting all your friends in there, see what's going on. The Just Housing Amendment, I want you guys to just be aware. Mark, if you could click that, make sure you're familiar. I would also, if you're doing rentals in Cook County, I would make sure that, oh, you have that, that you are familiar with that Just Housing Amendment. Okay. All right, this is the fun part. I should have been a detective because this gets me so excited when we catch these. It's like the highlight of my week. I want you guys to look out for some scams. Mark has done several shows, and you guys will get a copy of this, but there's how landlords can spot and avoid them, and then stolen identity scam applicant. So there's a lot of great information there. So if you want to grab a picture of those, you'll get your copy. But let's go in. We're going to get back to scams in a minute. Eviction history. Make sure you're checking to see if there's evictions on their record. Discuss any evictions with them, and then set your guidelines and just use those same criteria every time. No evictions on your record, or I'm not approving you, or 1 eviction over 5 years is fine. Whatever you determine works for your system, that's what you should use, but just be consistent with it. References. I put this in. Personal and professional references. Personal references are a waste of time, kind of. I mean, you can get information as far as references. That way, if you ever need to find the applicant, you know where to start calling. But they're not going to tell you the truth about their best friend if their best friend isn't paying rent on time. So don't rely on personal references. Professional references, sure. I mean, if you want to get somebody they're working with or just get some information, feel free to do that. When you have your application process. So if you can get them to talk at all about their relationship with the person and, how do they feel that they're responsible, but, most people are not going to give you a reference for someone who's going to say that you're a horrible tenant or human being. So I put it in, but I don't rely too heavily on that. Co-signers and guarantors. Discuss the option of having a co-signer. So some people will come to you with limited credit, or they're a little bit short on income, or there's 1,000 different scenarios. Just establish a process. For us, a co-signer has to earn 5 times net that monthly rent. So we look at the co-signer's credit report, we deduct their monthly debt, and we figure out, okay, if the primary resident defaults, do they have the financial capabilities of paying that rent? So whatever your process is, we say there's a minimum credit score, there's a minimum income requirement, they must be at their job for a certain period of time. You're looking for stability. So establish that process and use it across the board, same person. What you don't want to do is allow someone with a co-signer that has 2 times the income in this unit and then require something different for another unit because they talk, and that could be considered discrimination. I think that's the biggest takeaway is just be consistent with what you do. Follow the laws and be consistent.
If they're an out-of-state guarantor, is that an issue because it's harder to go after?
It is, but not for us. It's usually for us, if we approve a cosigner, they're very well qualified. Like Daddy's a doctor, and we can check his website. He's well qualified to do it. If there's somebody borderline that we're not real sure about, then we just don't approve it. They don't meet all of those qualifications. But that's why we set ours pretty high so that they have to be. We have a lot of people say, well, can I get a cosigner? And it's like, you can, but I don't know that they'll be able to meet that criteria.
Does the cosigner and the tenants, do they all have to go through a background check and the application, every single person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do the same process for the cosigner that we do for the applicant. Let's talk a little bit about pets. This is a sticking point with me. Everybody in the world can go online and get these emotional support animal certificates. They have anxiety, they have depression, they whatever. And it's some clinic in Florida that has never talked to them. They can pay the money and get the certificate. So here, Illinois recently kind of defined this emotional support animal, and this is different than a service animal. Service animal is trained to do a task like detect low blood sugar in a diabetic or something like that. An emotional support animal, there must be a therapeutic relationship with the person providing the certificate. So the company in Miami that's given them the certificate without ever meeting with them, that's not a therapeutic relationship. Somebody they talk to one time for 10 minutes is not a therapeutic relationship. So our FindDigs, who does our applications, has a whole department that does the verification of the emotional support animal. There's an application they fill out. We do it for all pets, whether it's a household pet or an ESA or support animal. But they will actually verify that documentation and make sure that a relationship truly exists. So you'll see a lot of out-of-state certificates, and I question the legitimacy of those because I don't think there's an online therapeutic relationship there. Somebody licensed in Florida is not performing therapy for people in Illinois. I doubt they're licensed in Illinois. So just be aware of that. Discuss any potential issues related to the number of occupants and specific pet breeds. So insurance companies used to be able to tell you, we will not insure you if you have an aggressive breed dog. I had a Rottweiler when I built my house. We had to call several insurance companies because I could not find anybody to give me homeowners insurance with my Rottweiler. She was very sweet, but it was a problem. January of 2024, insurance companies can no longer have those breed restrictions, but it's up to you to decide what sort of pets that you want. It's okay to say no pets. About 55% of the applicants do have a pet, so you're limiting your pool, but you have the right to say yes or no, or you can say cats only or small dogs under 25 pounds. Make sure you get pictures. Make sure you get pictures with the applicant and the dog together so they didn't take the picture off the internet and they've got a big pit bull.
So just to clarify, if it's not an ESA, you can discriminate against the ESA.
Yes, if it's not an ESA, you can 100% say no pets. Now, an emotional support animal or service animal is not considered a pet. So you cannot charge a refundable, non-refundable fee. You can't charge pet rent. You can't increase the security deposit. They are fully protected. So for your household pet, absolutely. For an ESA, there's nothing else you can charge regarding that. Okay. Lease terms and policies. Just be sure everybody's on the same page with all the information. We're very transparent with everything before we get to that lease signing page, so that lease signing stage. Make sure they understand the terms of the lease when they, our lease ends at noon on the last day, or just everything in that lease, make sure they understand and you go over with them. Yes?
I'm wondering if this is a violation. If, let's say it's a 2-bedroom and they say, oh yeah, there's gonna be 4 of us living in there. Can you say no, only,
We follow the HUD guidelines, and it's 2 heartbeats per bedroom. 2 heartbeats per bedroom. Yep. So that's what we say. We just say we're following HUD guidelines. Human heartbeats. Yep, human heartbeats. That gets tough when you've got a young couple and they've got a newborn baby and they want a 1-bedroom, right? I think there's, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think there's some leniency if the child's under 2. Putting him in the room with the parents or putting him in another room, but we use the 2 heartbeats per bedroom. Okay, just communicate, just be transparent, just maintain that open communication process with your applicant, and then discuss any concerns anyone has. The good part. How to spot red flags. First thing is, look at their credit report. Their job history doesn't match what they put on their application. So we had one applicant who said he owned a trucking company, gave us tax returns, gave us all kinds of information. But the credit report said he was an engineer. And I'm like, how do you go from an engineer to owning a truck? Not that it can't happen, but it was a little bit of a red flag to me that the credit report employment did not match. Typos and numbers that don't add up on a pay stub. Believe it or not, add up those numbers. When you see the gross income and the deductions, if something looks off, I don't do it all the time, but if something looks funky, I will start adding things up and you'll find that they make a lot of mistakes. So you're like, okay, your gross is this, your taxes are this, and your net is like $3 off. I don't think ADP is making $3 errors when they're doing their checks. So make sure that everything adds up on those pay stubs. They have a mortgage listed. It's kind of a red flag. Now, they could be relocating from another state and selling that property, or there could be something else going on. So watch for that. Landlord is not listed on the home. Check your deeds. Every county has a recorder of deeds that you can go on and you can look and verify that the person they listed on that application truly owns that property. Now, there are times they have a property manager. That's fine. They refer you to the property manager, or someone in the building does it for the owner. That's fine. You want to verify. It's just verify, verify, verify. But that's where we start. Is the landlord really the landlord and not your cousin that lives down the street? Check their social media accounts. Nope, I don't have any pets, and there's pictures of them all over the internet with their 3 dogs. So there's a lot there that you guys can find out just by looking if their accounts are unlocked at social media. Okay, I got 2 samples of fraud. Exciting. Seriously, this makes my whole week when this happens, because I should have been a detective. Okay, first example, Kyle Dimberg. Kyle Dimberg is a female who is looking at one of our units on the south side of Chicago. Her credit report shows an address in Hampshire. Do you guys remember where I live? Okay, with a mortgage. So we question it, and she says, I'm separating from my husband. Okay, makes sense, happens. Here's her rental application. I don't know if you can see. She's got her phone number and the email address, 𝗥𝗲𝗃@yahoo.com. Okay, so she's got their email address. Looks good to me. And she says she lives at 347 West Chestnut in Chicago from this period to this period. Okay, she's getting divorced. She's living in the city. Her landlord is 𝗥𝗲𝗃@gmail.com. Okay, so she's in unit 1502. 1502, that sounds like a really big building, right? There's 15 floors. Is Amber Smith managing? Oh, let me go back. Is Amber Smith managing this whole apartment building? Mark, can you click on our link there? So I put the address into Google, and I find that she's currently living at Next Level Living, which is a large apartment complex in the city. Are they using a Gmail address? No, they're not. They have an address that is affiliated with the business. So now I already know Amber Smith is not. If this is an apartment complex. It's not an individually owned condo, so I know that Amber Smith is not the landlord. Okay, so here is what her credit report looks like. She's got Hampshire, Pingree Grove, which is right next to Hampshire, and South Elgin, which is right there, right? And she works for Edwards Engineering and Rich Mechanical. Okay, good, she's doing good, great. She gives us these handwritten rent receipts, which again, is this large apartment building in the city of Chicago giving handwritten rental receipts? Probably not. They probably have a ledger. So my bells are going off. I'm all excited. She tells us she works for CTA. She gives us her pay stubs. You can see Kyle Dimberg. Looks like a legitimate pay stub. We've got her net pay at the bottom. You know, she gives us 3 of these. Great.
Not possible. Because I think for CTA, you have to live in the city.
Well, she is living in the city. She's living at...
Before she was living in Hampshire.
Right. But maybe she got this job in the last 3 years since she's been living in the city. Yeah, she's getting divorced. She moved in the city. Okay, so we've got that. We've got a copy of her paycheck. Kyle Dimberg with her address on Chestnut. Everything matches. This is Kyle Dimberg. I think that's a weird name, Kyle Dimberg, for a girl. Whatever. So this is her driver's license. Fine. I take a look at her signature, Kyle Dimberg. Well, because I'm a super sleuth, I pulled the deed for the house, and that's Kyle Dimberg's signature. So it was very clear that the signature on the driver's license did not match the signature on the deed. It's a bad picture, too. Yeah, it's a bad picture. I mean, there were flags from the beginning, but yeah, so, okay, so now I've got her, right? She even goes as far as giving us a ComEd bill with the name on the top, Kyle Dimberg, and her address on Chestnut. So these people, they can manipulate any document out there. So it's verify, 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 because this never existed. This is the real Kyle Dimberg. I found Kyle on Facebook, and I gotta tell you, because I'm me, and I live in Hampshire, I couldn't not tell this guy that this person was out there stealing his identity. So I went to his house with the whole packet, I rang his doorbell, and I'm like, I did. And I said, all right, you don't know me, and this is crazy. He's got this big German Shepherd, you know, and actually his dad answered. He's like, Kyle's at the gym. And I'm like, well, I'm going to give you this, and I want you to see that somebody is using his identity to try to rent property. So he filed a police report. The police contacted me several times. They were going to do what they could. I don't know whatever happened. But I couldn't sleep at night knowing I drive by this guy's house every single day, and I couldn't warn him. So I went to his house. A little crazy, but that's what I do. Here's another example that recently happened. This is Ian Hoffman. Ian Hoffman has an 801 credit score. Great, we're already excited, right? So my bells are going off. Ian Hoffman's daughter's name is Layla Brooks Hoffman. Okay, all right, getting whatever. Applicant comments. I paid off my home and I'm looking for a property in Oak Lawn so I can open another office in the area. Okay, good. This looks so far so good. This is Ian Hoffman. Ian Hoffman put on his application that he's a dentist. Good for him. Love that. Excited. And see, keep going. Then he sends us this selfie, and it says wake and bake. Like, I don't know, something about this just isn't adding up to me. I'm not sure that a dentist would present himself in this manner, possibly, you know, but this is a Lincoln Park dentist, according to what he said. So I don't know, I kind of have some red flags. So we pull the credit report, Logan Square Dental Group. Okay, so he's moving from the north side. He's got a mortgage, by the way. I didn't show it, but he still owes on this house. So, I mean, I already know this is fraudulent. It's so obvious. He gives us these pay stubs. If you can see, like, the logos cut off on each side. But he's got Logan Square Dental Group pay stubs to provide. Great, thank you. It's the real Ian Hoffman. All you have to do is Google a dentist in Logan Square Dental, and you're going to find the real guy. So I reached out to Ian on a Saturday and called him at his office, and I too gave him the heads up that somebody is using his information. So these people will go through, they're elaborate. They have like rings of people, if you go on TikTok or you go on any of these things, that people sell them this documentation, they buy it. So they pay somebody a couple $100 and they'll give them bank statements, utility bills, pay stubs. They'll give them all the information they want. So just be very careful. When you see something that looks so amazing, then that's when your red flags should go up. Or if somebody is like, really pushing you to get in a unit, they're very responsive when they're going through the application process. They will call you, text you. If you ask for something, you'll have it in 30 seconds. They're great at giving you. And then they disappear if you let them in their unit. And years ago, these types of things did happen more. We have not had any fraudulent applicants at all since using Findigs, and because I screen them all myself, and I should be a detective on CSI. No. So I just want you guys to be aware. Please, please, please pay attention to the documentation that they give to you, because a lot of it looks real. And you just have to use your common sense and your spidey senses to see what the true story is. Just always comply with local and federal fair housing laws and regulations. The best way to do that is have a process and stick to it. Don't deviate from that process. Establish your criteria and stick to it.